here is the truth. All of us are unique. We bring here uniqueness, and your unique being, your unique genius that you were born with, whatever it is different from mine, from other people, will always find a way of coming up if you take the time to listen. Now, note, I was led there, did not know anybody. I trusted. I let him take my only copy of what I had written down. I didn't have a backup. I didn't have any photocopy. There was no server anywhere where I had saved it like in today's world. I just trusted. My voice inside said to me, you can trust this guy. And then I walked away, forgot about it. Months later, about September, somebody says to me, hey, I see Tsakani, which is my African name, as I've told you. My full name is Daniel Tsakani Moyane. He said, hey, Tsakani. It was published under my name, Tsakani Moyane. I see you got a poem published in the magazine. I said, wow, it has been published. It's very important that you listen to your intuition, listening to that voice. We all have it. We are born with it, in fact. That's what I would argue. And from my experience, I mean, as a 19-year-old, a voice had said to me, write. And I wrote when I found myself in Mozambique. Okay? A voice, the same voice had said to me a few months before, after my home was raided by the apartheid security police, run, flee. Welcome to Don't Die Unknown, a space where we are holding conversations that help us to understand how to live meaningful lives, how not to live an unlived life, because that is the enemy of not dying unknown. If you don't want to die unknown, therefore, you must live a life of significance. That's my view, at least. And that's what I've learned throughout my career and my life so far. As I've explained in previous episodes, so the podcast, Don't Die Unknown, is based on 4 key pillars: values, inner voice, spirituality, faith, not religion, let me emphasize again, and family. And those are 4 key aspects that over the years have guided my life, and I think yours too. I mean, most of us would have a family. Most of us, we have some level of faith, or we ascribe to some spirituality practices, and most of us have that voice that speaks to us in those quiet moments. And most of us have grown up ascribing to values, or have been taught values, or we've observed values. And in our organizations, we have developed values. In this episode, I want to talk about the inner voice. What is the inner voice? What I've learned, what it is that quiet little voice that tells you something in your gut, inside you, that speaks to you, and only you can hear it. Sometimes it manifests as a thought you think you're having that doesn't go away. It keeps on coming back, repeating itself. Sometimes it sits here in the gut as an uncomfortable feeling, some discomfort that just won't go away until you address it by simply asking, what is this about? Why am I feeling like this? It does not shout, but what I do know and what I've learned is it also does not give you certainty. That inner voice doesn't tell you exactly this is it that's going to be happening, but it prompts you towards a particular direction. When I was 19 years old, I had to flee South Africa away from the apartheid security police because of our involvement as young school children in Soweto during the June 16 uprising. Just one of the students who was there, we were all there and taking part. And it came to my attention later that the security branch, as we used to call the apartheid security police at the time, had me on a list of young people who was wanted. And because of our participation and involvement in the protest against Bantu education, against the use of Afrikaans as a medium of instruction, and my involvement plus those of others had come to the attention of the security branch. And one day they raided my home, my parents' home in Soweto in White City in the middle of the night, and they interrogated me for at least 3 hours. And thankfully, fortunately, they didn't detain me and take me with them to John Foster Square. They left me behind. And then I had to leave the country. So I left the country successfully, found myself in Maputo after a few weeks. That was in early 1979. Now I was alone in literally a foreign country because I was born and bred and grew up in Soweto. So I'd never lived in Mozambique, didn't even speak Portuguese. So I found myself there. And as the months went by, one day, this inner voice, what I call today the inner voice, there was this thought that just said to me, write. Write what? So I started writing. And I wrote my thoughts. I used to write in notebooks. And one day I ended up writing what I called at the time poetry. Okay, I'm not a poet, but I called it poetry. And one of the poems I wrote at the time, following that instinct, that voice, that inner voice that said to me, right, was about the Soweto uprising. Okay? Logically, I was reflecting back to our days in the streets of protest in Soweto, ducking and diving, running away from the bullets and the tear gas that they were firing at us. And I wrote about that. And as it happens, it was middle of the year. So we were approaching June 16 at the time. I'm talking about way back in 1979. I'm still 19 years old at the time. So I mentioned it to some guy in Maputo. I said, I've been writing and stuff. He said to me, maybe you must get this thing published. I said, okay, but where? Who? I'm not a writer. I'm not a poet. I just wrote some thoughts about June 16. And I was led again by a voice that says to me, just go to the local weekly magazine that they publish in Portuguese called Tempo. And this magazine, now and again, in the back pages, they would publish poetry. They would publish some reflections by known writers and known poets. And who was I? But I followed that voice. I went to Tempo Building magazine. I did not know anybody. I did not speak fluent Portuguese. I spoke mostly English and Xitsonga, and many people in southern Mozambique also speak Xitsonga or Shangaan, as it is popularly known. So I got there, got to the reception, and there was this lady I greeted, and she said to me, how can I help you? In Portuguese. And I explained in my broken Portuguese that, no, I've written a poem. I even showed it to her. I want to get it published because I know you guys publish poems now and again. She said to me, hey, okay, I think you can speak to somebody else from the newsroom, from the editorial team. And this gentleman walked down, and I later came to know him as Zé Batista, a Mozambican journalist. So I told him, he spoke English. I explained to him. He looked at it. He said, okay, it's a nice poem, fine. But, June 16 is around the corner now, and normally we get these write-ups and these poems later on in advance. We get them well in advance. But let's see what we can do. But I'll keep it with you. And then he said to me, let's walk. I just want to know a little bit more about you. So he asked me questions, and I shared about my journey and why I found myself in Mozambique from Soweto and stuff like that. I left him with a poem. Now, note, I was led there, did not know anybody. I trusted. I let him take my only copy of what I had written down. I didn't have a backup. I didn't have any photocopy. There was no server anywhere where I had saved it like in today's world. I just trusted. My voice inside said to me, you can trust this guy. And then I walked away, forgot about it. Months later, about September, somebody says to me, hey, I see Tsakani, which is my African name, as I've told you. My full name is Daniel Tsakani Moyane. He said, hey, Tsakani. It was published under my name, Tsakani Moyane. I see you got a poem published in the magazine. I said, wow, it has been published. So that was the outcome. That was an achievement. So most of us, when we hear an inner voice directing us, or that feeling or that thought that doesn't go our way, we sometimes doubt it. And we become fearful to say, can I trust this? Who am I to think I can publish a poem? I'm using myself as an example. There were many other occasions, by the way, after that one. And as a young professional, as a leader in organizations, as a chairman of boards, as a manager of teams, that I had many moments of an inner voice, including in my own private life, my family. There's been times when it has spoken to me. But most of us, we don't listen. We don't take it seriously. We doubt it. We say, but who am I to think I can? Then we find ourselves being anxious. It's a human nature. We become anxious, we become fearful, we become doubtful. A more recent example is when I was a top executive in a financial services company, and the voice came to me, I remember very well, saying, it's time for change. But I did not understand how and what it wanted me to change. Okay. But it kept on coming. It sat down to say, you need to move. You need something else. You need something else. And that discomfort did not go away until I addressed it. And how I did so, I found a coach, a professional executive coach, who then guided me through this. And it was bang on the money, time for change. Had I ignored that voice, I would not have moved to the next chapter of my career. Now, it's very important that you listen to your intuition, listening to that voice. We all have it. We are born with it, in fact. That's what I would argue. And from my experience, I mean, as a 19-year-old, a voice had said to me, write. And I wrote when I found myself in Mozambique. Okay? A voice, the same voice had said to me a few months before, after my home was raided by the apartheid security police, run, flee. I did not want to die young at the time. I was scared of dying young. I thought, no, I must have much more to give to this world. So I ran. I fled from the police. I listened to the voice. So wherever you are in your stage of your life, yourself, today, if there's a voice that is speaking to you, if there's a thought that is speaking to you, don't ignore it. Don't doubt yourself. Because I have come to learn that it is true. It is true to who you are and where you are, and it's guiding you. Remember, it also helps you to solidify your identity every moment. I believe that because I've seen it with myself, that when you listen to the voice, it's actually telling you who you must be, and it reminds you as well who you were before you achieved whatever you have achieved. So our evolution in our careers as individuals, our evolution as fathers in families, in households, our evolution as mothers in families, in households, our evolution as leaders in organizations has a lot to do with who you truly are. And that inner voice talks to you to remind you all the time who you truly are. When we are young, and I believe this because I've experienced it, when I was 19, my inner voice was stronger than as I got older. Why? Because it was affected by a lot of noise. We are bombarded lots of information, lots of voices, lots of views. And then our inner voices get drowned in that. Okay? But you must understand the following. And this was my experience. You have to spend time in silence, reflecting on your own. And sometimes the inner voice will find you even when you are not listening to it. It will jolt you, sometimes like a bolt of something. You'll be moved by it. So here is the truth. All of us are unique. We bring here uniqueness, and your unique being, your unique genius that you were born with, whatever it is different from mine, from other people, will always find a way of coming up if you take the time to listen. Doubting is natural, okay? As you get older, and in today's world, including this podcast, I mean, there's gazillions of podcasts nowadays. We listen to stuff, but just remember who you are. Your identity is defined by what is within you, not by what other people are saying, what are other people doing. One of the biggest challenges we face, and even when I was younger at my time, as a young person of 19, is comparison. We try to compare ourselves with somebody else and try to imitate. That's not the way to go. If you're going to be true to your inner voice, listen to what it's saying to you and follow your passions. Here's an example. Think about it this way. When you were a kid, between the ages of 8 and 12, you used to play. You used to play with friends. You used to play alone if you didn't have any friends. During that moment when you were immersed in pleasurable joy of play, what were you focusing on? When I was 11, 12 years old, I used to pretend I was a DJ. I used to play and pretend outside the backyard of my parents' home in Waisijabavu that I'm on radio. I did not know anything about radio journalism, but I used to derive extreme joy, pure joy from those moments. Later in my life, when I found myself in media reflecting, I realized that was that inner voice that was telling me, this is your joy. So you all have it. If you reflect back a little bit all the time, you will remember what made you very happy, so to speak, when you're younger. What really brought out the energy from within you. That is your sweet spot. That is the inner voice telling you, you must do this. So do it, whatever it is. Your inner voice will be telling you sometimes that it's time for change. For example, your inner voice will be telling you, pick up the phone, call that guy or that lady. Your inner voice might be telling you, take a walk. Your inner voice might tell you, go and buy this book and read it. Your inner voice might tell you, watch this podcast, whatever is telling you, okay? And you're going to say, why must I go and buy that book? Okay, sometimes you have that voice, but maybe there's a better book. When you start questioning it with doubt, okay, remember, it's self-sabotage. It's really trying to stop you, to say, don't do it. When I wrote the poem that I wrote, I thought, this is not a poem. Can't be a poem. I mean, I'm not a poet. That was a doubt. But I was encouraged, okay, by another voice that says, no, man, just go and check out at the Tempo magazine. Similarly, when I was in corporate, it said it was time for change. I said, but I'm comfortable. I'm earning a good salary. Change what? I'm okay. It's just, it's just an uneasy feeling. It will go away. It didn't go away. So I was doubting. There's not a single moment when there was a voice that said to me, do something else, do this and do this. I was doubting. Even this podcast, Don't Die Unknown, has been in my head for several years now. And I've been saying, podcast, there's too many podcasters already. But whatever I got to share that other people are not already hearing, it's the doubt. Until another voice said to me, no, you've lived a full life so far. You still a lot to give. The world is hungry for wisdom. And your story might just, even if it helped just one person, you would have impact beyond yourself. You will not die unknown. And that is a life of significance. Listen, it will not give you certainty. At every point the voice came to me, it was not say, here's the plan, here are the steps, here's the strategy. It is nothing about the how. It tells you, you have to move, you have to become something else. And then you better listen to it. And then the plans, the unfolding, the how will come clear as you take the step. If you don't take that first step of saying, I'm listening to the voice, what must I do? You'd never know. There was no guarantee in Maputo when I was 19 that my poem would be published. There was no guarantee at all if I'd find somebody to listen to my request. But I followed the voice, and as they say, the rest is history. When in corporate recently, it said it's time for change, and I sought the help of an executive coach. If I hadn't done that, I would not have moved to the next part of my professional career. I would have been stuck, then become resentful, and become unhappy. I know that for sure. So like me, in those two examples, I'm hoping you're understanding what I'm trying to say. Your inner voice will talk to you as a whisper. It will not go away. It could talk to you as a thought, a feeling in your gut, and you follow it. It will not give you a certain plan. It will not give you a clear strategy. It will not tell you about the steps you must take about how. It will just tell you, you need to do something now. And just trust it and follow. And I believe you will be guided. So, what is your inner voice telling you today?